Welcome, everybody, to our monthly meeting talking about folders and smart folders. Hope is going to be our first speaker because she's already done talking about folders with two different groups. So I'll turn it over to you.
Folders are really an important thing to learn about because you do so much. You can organize yourself so well using folders in just about every place on an iPhone, an iPad, or Mac. So what I'm going to cover are apps on your phone or your Mac or your iPad, documents, email, and photos. So you can organize your home screen apps by creating folders to remove less frequently used apps. And you can remove less frequently used apps because they'll always be in the library. We're going to talk about using your downloads folder, using your desktop folder, creating and managing folders in documents, organizing your email with folders, and grouping and managing photos. On a Mac, you use the sidebar menu for some of this. So organizing the apps on your home screen. On a phone and on a Mac, you tap and hold an app until all the apps start to jiggle, which puts you into edit mode. And you can then do all of these other things. You can move, create, rename, delete, and then you can stop the jiggling by just tapping on any other place on the screen. And okay, to move an app, move the app, you drag a jiggling app to a new location. So I decided I would move the playground to a different location. So it was in jiggling mode, which is when the little things that look like a minus in a circle are show you it's jiggling, and you can move the thing then to some other place on the screen. And so that's where I'm showed this here that you did that. Then you press done to stop the jiggling on an iPhone or iPad up in the top right. To create a folder, you drag one jiggling app on top of another. For instance, if you look here at, I've got an Apple folder and I've got 6 things in it. And down in the bottom, I've got my Charlestown folder where I have all the apps that are related to Charlestown, my Ericsson, CCI Charlestown, Kilo, the shuttle tracker, the dining reservations, and net nutrition. So on an iPhone, iPad, you can group the apps into folders in the home screen by just moving them on top of another and then renaming the resulting folder. On a MacBook, you can group those apps in the Launchpad or on the dock. So on to stop the jiggling, you tap the home screen background on the Mac. So to rename a folder, if you touch and hold a folder and then tap the word rename, you can change the name of whatever that folder is. So I have a screenshot showing that. To delete an app so it does not display on the home page, if you touch and hold the app icon until it starts to wiggle, then you can tap remove app. You can choose remove from home screen to keep the app in your app library, or you can choose delete app to completely remove it from your phone. On a computer, you right click on the app icon and select delete to remove it from the desktop, or similarly, deleting it from your library. To see all your apps, you swipe left on your iPad or iPhone to access the app library. While all your apps are categorized and searchable, they're categorized by Apple. You can't control the way they are here, but you can search for anything by putting in the first couple of letters in the top area where it says, you see the magnifying glass app library. You can it's a good idea to choose where to keep the apps you use most frequently. That's why I have a couple of specific folders, and I have the front page organized. And you can keep all documents inside a documents folder. It's suggested to use downloads for downloads and not for storage. It can get to be really full if you let everything stay in downloads. And so one tip that I suggest is to have a time each week that you go through the downloads and move them or decide that you don't need to keep them. Tips for naming folders on the home screen on iPhone and iPad. I choose very simple, very short names. Here's the Mac side panel. And this is all these, the basic location tags and iCloud appear there. And then some of the listings here, like downloads, recents, are automatically there. Others you can add to the sidebar by just highlighting whatever the content is and moving it over. And so there, if I keep the things I'm currently working on in a folder that I can then get to quickly by having it on the sidebar. This is on the Mac, of course. And since this folder is on the iCloud, since it's within my documents, I can get to it from my iPad or iPhone as well. To create and manage folders in documents on the iPhone or iPad, open the Documents app, which is called Files, and you tap the plus button, and then you can select a new folder and type the folder's name and you're done. Then you can create a folder, then you can move anything into a folder. You can also create a folder by dragging one file over another. And to create a subfolder, you open the parent folder and either move something in it or create another folder. On the Mac, you open the Finder window, navigate to where you want to create the folder, and choose File, New Folder, and enter a name, and then press Return. Let me come out of, I'm going to stop share for a minute, because I realize I've kept moving further along and no one said anything. So I'm wondering if there are any questions, or I've left you behind at this point. I want to keep people, keep you all so that you understand what I'm talking about. Any comments or thoughts? How do you use the downloads for downloads, or does the things get clogged up in there, for instance?
I never leave things on the downloads. As soon as I get them, I put them somewhere.
That's a very smart thing to do. The other place where you might have things get cluttered up is some people use the desktop as a place to keep things, because then you can get to them right away. And while that's not really recommended, Apple has realized it, and so they've created a way to cluster the things by kind on your desktop. So if you have a bunch of documents, you can look at the documents on your desktop, or you can look at the PDFs on your desktop, because if you can create a cluster out of them. Any other comments, or I'll go back to it. So if you've got a multiple items on the screen, you can create this is in documents, you can create a folder by doing Control-click on one of the items and choosing New Folder with Selection as the topic. And that will allow you to create, if you've got if I've got 3 or 4 menus, for example, that I'm going to be putting on the website, I can create my menus folder just by clicking on one of them. On your Mac, here's, for example, an example of my chug folders that and Ann and I use a Google Drive as well. So, but I'm known to have things accumulate on my computer. Therefore, I have a by year folder there as well. And so what I can do is if I decide that I want to have one of these over on the sidebar, I can just hold it down and swipe it to the, move it to the left until it goes in there. And notice that I've made this screen shown clicking in the empty space and allows you to create a new folder right from there. Okay. On the iPhone or iPad, I've gone into files and I'm looking at if you put this section, look at this section, you can open it up and you can select either a new file or new folder from under one of these. And this is how you would add a new folder. I'm not sure why I would scan documents at this point. But anyway, this is adding a new folder on an iPhone. Or actually, this was on my iPad, I believe. And all of these files are files that I have on my desktop, on my Mac as well. But since they're in the iCloud, I can actually act on them either on my phone or my iPad as well as on my Mac. Now, moving on to email. So are there any other questions about documents before I do? Or you're all feel very comfortable on those? Okay, well, organizing your email with folders. I'm really primarily going to talk about the Gmail. There is the Apple Mail app, and there's also Gmail. For both, you can move email into a mailbox, and you can set up rules to sort the mail automatically and have them land in specific folders. I'm not going to go into those rules. Maybe Ann will later. To organize your email, I think this is the same, that's the same slide. To create a folder in your regular email, you open the Mail app and tap the edit button in the top right. And then down in the bottom, it says select new mailbox if you want to create a new folder. And you can choose the email account if you have more than one that you want it associated with, and put the folder within that email account and tap save. For instance, I have dining reservations as one of my ones since I use it so frequently. This is showing on my the dining reservations with the current reservations there. Notice it's under iCloud, and I've added it to display so that I'll see it. Okay. On Gmail, it works really the same way. There's only one minor little difference. They use the term labels instead of folders. So when you think folders, you look for labels on your Gmail. And so, whoopsie, that's, wait, okay, I guess I don't have another slide for Gmail. I thought I had one that showed this stuff in here. Nope, I don't. Because I have a folder right below 2025 stuff that says dining reservations. So I can see the dining reservations using Gmail as well. Okay. Oh, okay, that was the Apple Mail showing the dining reservations. Okay, and those. Apple tries to help you in lots of ways. I'm not sure all of the ways they try to help are helpful.
Yes.
But they've also in the latest versions have reorganized photos yet again. So there are ways that you can see the things. They, for instance, will create albums on picture names for you sometimes when you're not even asking for them. But you can create your own albums. And if you go to the Photos app and tap on albums, you can select new album and name it and add pictures to it. That is something you can do. And add them into the ones that they've created, and you can delete the ones that they've created as well. To create a photo album on your iPhone, when you can go in and tap albums and click on create, tap new album, add photos, and choose a key photo to represent the album, then tap done. This is an example of some of the albums, some created by Apple and some that I created. On the iPhone, if you're in Photos, you can click on the plus album to see a choice of creating an album, a smart album, or a folder. And on a Mac, if you're in Photos, you go all the way up to File at the top of the screen, and that's where you can add the album and then rename it at that place. You can take your albums and create folders and put a lot of the different things into a folder. For instance, a folder named Travel can have a lot of trips. In the album section, edit the new folder and name it, and then you can slide your various albums in that. So just a couple of final tips. I recommend using the downloads folder for downloading, preferably not for storage. Do store all documents, all files in documents. If they're in the iCloud, they will be available on all your devices. There is a local documents if you want something just on your computer. Desktop is a good place to add a new file temporarily when you don't have time to organize it. If you plan to keep things there for a length of time, look at the cluster feature that Apple has created. Keep in mind that there is the folder recent, and that shows what you've recently done, but look at the breadcrumbs in recent to see where the files are actually located. Nothing lives in recent. And if you were talking about an application, only put your applications in the main applications folder. You can get to that by Go Applications, or you can actually go to Home Applications if you're on the Launchpad. And for applications, Home Applications will get you to applications only available to the logged in specific user. If you want it for your whole computer, you just do Go Applications. And it was suggested that the trash folder could be used as a place to put something that you want to get back to you, but you think you want to delete. I recommend only using it for something that you expect to delete, not as a storage location to review later. And another tip someone suggested is do not stick files directly into the time machine. That will mess up your time machine drive. It's not designed to receive files specifically. You can take a file out of it, but don't add a file into it. And also don't put your files or your applications at the top level of users or roots. Put them in under your username in this appropriate file folder like documents or applications. Okay, there are some really good YouTubes, and so here is a list of them. And since this will be out on the Chug website and sent to you, these will be available to you. And I will then stop my share.
Folders, they've been around for a long time. I'm going to talk about what they are and how to use them. And they are available in different apps. We can also talk about tags and then how you manage smart folders. Now, one thing I was not clear on is smart folders really are saved searches. Your files stay in the place where you put them. So it's more serves as saved searches. And as you add new items, that meet the search conditions, the smart folder will update. And that was kind of key to my understanding what they were, where I have not really used smart folders until I started putting this program together. And I knew that they were important, and I knew they had value. And once I started learning about them, I started understanding that they work pretty well. Now, the way you can tell if you've got a smart folder is in the sidebar of your apps, you'll see a gear. And you'll notice here there's a couple smart folders, PDFs in the last 6 months, for example. Now, what you can put in a smart folder: files, your notes from your notes app, and you set up rules or criteria for what you want in that smart folder. And we talked about the items remain in their original position. Now, why would you want to use smart folders? Well, they automatically update. You get a centralized view of all your files that match certain conditions, and I'll show you how to do that. And you can use a wide range of criteria, from file names to dates, when it was last opened, who's the recipient, etc. Now, there are smart folders available in the following Apple apps: the Finder, in Contacts, Reminders, in Apple Mail, your Music app, Notes, and Photos. And I'll demonstrate a few of those. You can also use tags. Does anybody use tags? That's the hashtag symbol plus a word. So you can use hashtags with smart folders, which gives you more flexibility. Now, there's a variety of ways you can use the smart folders. For instance, the easiest one is if you have a lot of PDFs, you can group them all together. You can organize a smart folder that just has items that have been added or modified in the last week. It serves as an easy way to get back to things that you're working on. If you're on a project, you can use keywords. And I showed you the gear icon. Let me share my screen here. You can see my iPhone here. And I did a few demo ones you can see here. Now, one of the projects that I work on is ageism and ableism. In this way, I can get to the current items that I'm working on. And you can always find out what your search criteria have been. So you can edit your smart folder once you set it up. And you'll see here the filter that I have is I'm using the tag ableism, and I'm using the tag ageism, which I had already set up. But you can see the filters that are available using smart apps. Now, the date it's created, for instance, I have this off. If I just wanted to find notes from the last 30 days, I could add that as a filter. You can see who you shared it with, mentions. I don't use that with a mention. I don't use that. Checklists. All these items are filters that you can add. You can use as many filters as you want, actually. So let's see if there are now 2 filters enabled. I'll say done. And notice there are no notes related to the topic when I put it in 30 days, because I didn't put any notes within the last 30 days into that smart folder. Now, this one, if you have a lot of things spread all over your computer. And if you want to consolidate, this is an easy one that when you're looking at YouTube videos, to do is just do a search on, ask them to collect all your PDFs together, or you can do, and because PDFs can,
Mhm.
so it's a easy way to collect PDFs or videos or other files that have the same extension. Let me go back in here. For instance, here are possibilities to collect on this particular app, which is notes. I just want to collect notes that I have checklists, because sometimes here are some notes from Evernote, and you can see I can check off checklists if you're using as a to-do list. If you lose track of things, you can use a smart folder to collect like items together. Let's go into, you can see I have my notes organized with the para method, which is a second brain way. Here's, yeah, this, how long did this last, Anne? I don't know. Well, actually, I spent a lot of time on YouTube with various productivity kinds of things. But learning, here's things I've collected on that topic. Let me try another app, and let's go to contacts. This is a great way to use a smart list also. Let's see if they show up here. And I've got several different lists organized, so when I send an email, they'll come out of my contacts. But you can add a list and you can make a smart list out of it. Now here, I want to do this in iCloud. I want to do it in Gmail. Smart list. And you see it says new smart list. And let's call this, I'm going to make one up with people that have, you can see all the different categories that you can use as a filter. And I am going to use card contains. Erickson.com. And let's see if we get one. Here's Erickson. Okay, so those are all the names of people that have Erickson.com as an email. And you can see some of these need to be deleted because they're no longer working for the company. In fact, that's a good way for me to sort these out. So rather than going through them individually, now I did a smart list here on birthdays in the next 30 days. And that's a good way to kind of organize your life for the month. And the criteria, you go in, I'm using a right click to get into the edit feature. And you'll see I've used birthday, and I'm using the category birthday, and is in the next 2 months. You can change the number here. You can also change days or weeks. So you could say, let's just change this to 14 days, for example. And you'll see by changing the criteria, I went from 2 months to 14 days, and only my niece came up. So and I've got Christmas and Erickson. So you can see that's a possibility for using smart folder in your contacts layers. Now you'll see here that I set up a few, and one I did was a smart folder just for the last 30 days. Now you might wonder why I have a toilet seat there. That was which I sent to General Services to say it's about time you replace the toilet seats in the atrium because they have wooden chips. And here we were having a discussion about how do you know if you are on the E plan for not getting paper in your cubby? And they said, well, there's a small emblem there. Do you see the little?
Yep, and it's very small.
It's very small. And I don't have one yet, but I did notice they do have some at St. Charles, which I was claiming wasn't the case. So that's, you would use smart folders in photos by going to a new smart album, and you could select a bunch of photos ahead of time and then make it a new smart album. And again, you would add what will be your criteria. And let me see, we can come up with one here. It's going to be a photo, or it could be the date captured, could be an album. There's lots of options. I do not normally put a file name in a caption when I take a picture or a keyword. So let's put a person here. I'm going to put Dan Boyle. It's our anniversary today.
Oh, congratulations.
43 years.
Wow.
Let's see what we come up with. Okay, that's quite a few. That came up with Dan. Okay, so that gives you a flavor on how you might use it in photos. You can do the same thing in mail. You'll see I've got a few here. I was trying to collect just flyers that I have done because sometimes I lose track of when I have sent a flyer off to community resources. And I also tried another smart folder on mail just using the Erickson.com extension. And this way I have all the emails that have come from Charlestown staff, and they go back years. So that's how I put together. And here are just emails recently that I needed to look at. So that's how you could possibly use smart folders in your mail app. I think that the value would be how you like to organize your computer, how organized you want to be. And if you're happy with your systems, fine, but it would be worth exploring. You really have to kind of experiment with the filters. I use the Notes app extensively, and I have found that very useful to have smart folders, especially when I have multiple projects I work on, and sometimes it's helpful just to keep the stuff you're working on currently in a smart folder. It's easy to access rather than having to remember, names and folder titles. So using tags, let's talk about that a little bit. Let me go back to.
I use tags a lot in the Notes app.
Let me resume, and let me share the screen again for the iPhone. Okay, you're seeing the iPhone again.
Mm-hmm.
And let me go into notes with tags. You'll see these are some of the tags that I have set up over the years. And let's do, you could do a tag just on your smart notes. And fortunately, built into many of the Apple apps now, you can do some, which would have been a smart folder, you can sort by different dates already, or you can sort by, here the default is a date. But again, they've allowed lots of different ways to sort. So, okay, you can see, for instance, here I've collected all the PDFs that I had, and that turned out to be 474 different PDFs just in my notes section. And let's set up a new smart folder. You go under File, New Smart Folder, and we'll just say Example. So we could use tags, and you would say all selected, and then here's where you would put in your tags. Let's see what we've got here. Let's do a board. Let's do a CCRC, and let's do consumers for fun and see what we come up with. Well, I know that I have. Okay, and if the criteria don't work, let's group by date. Let's edit, you can go back into edit. Let's try any. Why are some of these not working? Let's try any tag. Okay, so it came up with 493 examples of items that I have tagged. So that's kind of interesting. You really have to kind of play around with this to learn how to use them. Let's try one more here, videos. Let's see if I have any videos. Let's try checklists here. Okay, so that has some 50 different items with footnotes. I mean, checklists.